Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. Good afternoon. How did you guys enjoy that keynote speak? Yeah? You guys, are we pumped for Dreamforce? Woo! All right. Well, welcome to the hands-on Building Your First Force.com application. My name is Leah McGowan-Hare. I will be your instructor for this 1-hour hot session. I am a certified Salesforce developer, as well as a technical instructor. I deliver primarily developer classes. I also have the privilege of having my driver, Sebastiano, here from Italy helping. And by a show of hand, can I have the helpers? We have Mark over there. We got Greg. We got Sophie. We got plenty of helpers. Please spread out and make yourselves available. They will be available to you for questions when you're logging in, when we're doing the hands-on activities, or if you just want to tell them what a wonderful time you're having, they'll be there to take all that. So a few things. If you are seeing things in this class or in this session that you enjoy and you want more, or you are interested in signing up for training, we have our TAEs in the back. Where are they? We have a TAE in the back. That you can talk to afterward and sign up for classes. I'd love to see all of you guys. I think I have seen some of you guys in my class before. Nice to see you again. So we're going to go ahead and get started. How many people have actually built applications? Okay. And how many people this is their first time? Woo! I am so honored to be the first one to take you through this. Yay! All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Before we get started, just a word from our legal team. There may be some forward-looking statements said in the presentation. However, please make all of your implementation, purchasing, and configurations decisions based off of the product that you have already purchased. All right, so before we actually get started in talking about building an application on the Force.com platform, I want everybody to get logged in, okay? I see we have some doubled up. If you don't have a computer, you can double up with someone, share, make a friend. We're going to go ahead and log in. So what I'm going to need you to do, first of all, everybody should have two pieces of documentation here. One are the slides and one are the exercise guide. The one that you want to have open right now are the slides, and you want it open to page 2. And the bottom slide at page 2, because this is the login information, because we're going to take this slide down and go ahead and, you want to go ahead and open up the org? So we're going to log in. I want to make sure that everybody can successfully log in. Yeah. So in your login is going to be admin at DF09 for Dreamforce 09, first app. And those 3 pounds are going to be replaced by the number on your upper right hand in the corner of your monitor. You should have 3 numbers there. Replace those 3 number signs with that number that's located there. And then .com. And then your password is going to be password, all lowercase, and the number 1. So password, all lowercase, and the number 1. If you are having trouble logging in, please raise your hand and we can get a helper too. Someone back here, right here? Yeah. You can help them log in? Okay, great. Just want to make sure everybody got in. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right, great. Let's get going. So today we're going to talk about what is a custom application. Oh, yes? You need the number, so it's the number that will be unique. You need that number that's on the monitor. All the numbers that are on the monitor are the ones that we have. Okay, and then Force.com application design, and then we're going to build your first application. We're going to actually have a hands-on building an application. And then we'll have where do you go from here, where do you want to go and sign up for more training, and a Q&A. So many of you guys may have seen this slide before, particularly those that might have taken a class. And this is one of my favorite slides. I have many, but this is one of my favorites. Because it's very simple in telling you sort of what you can do on the Force.com platform. As you may know, Salesforce is a 3-tier architecture. We have the data model, which is geared toward the modeling your data. How are you going to store your data, the different objects you may create. And then your business logic. Your business logic tier encapsulates all of your business logic that's unique to your business. It may be that I have a business rule that says when I hire a new employee, I need to send an email over to facilities. I need to send information over to benefits. All of those are unique business rules to you. So in that tier is where those business rules are being encapsulated. And then we have the user interface, which is exactly that. It's the user interface tier, the interface in which your users interact with your application. So you have a way, a framework in which you can create an application declaratively. Declaratively meaning point and click. No coding. For some of those people, no coding. And for some people, like, no coding. So it's declaratively no coding. You'll be able to create an application fully just point and click. And then if you want to expand on that, or you want to go beyond the capabilities declaratively, you can move into the programmatic realm. And so programmatically, you can do things through Apex, you can do things through Visualforce that build on top of what you've already done declaratively. What we will be working with here are all declaratively. So we'll be doing point and click. Okay? So that's where we'll be going with this. And declaratively is all about simplicity and speed. Simplicity and speed. Getting that application up and out quickly so that you can look at it and get testing, and it could fit all of your needs. And then if you want more control, more flexibility over how that application behaves, over how that application looks, then you might want to look into the programmatic framework. Just know it does require a different skill set. There is some programming, whether it be Visualforce or whether it be Apex. It's a different skill set. So let's first talk about the data model area. The data model area, the heart of any application in Salesforce, is going to be based off of the objects. Okay? How many people know what objects are, right? Okay, good. We'll go past the slide. Now, objects are very similar conceptually to a database table because they store data. But they do more than that. They also generate a user interface. They also, and you don't do anything. All you do is create an object and you automatically have a user interface. Now, many of you know when you create a database table, that doesn't happen, right? You just have a data storage and you might be able to slam some data in there through some SQL. But it actually generates a page layout for you. It also has what we call a standard controller. And if you ever work in Visualforce, you'll learn about those as well. So just know that data objects are objects that we're working with are more than just data storage. Their primary use is to store data, but they do more than that. We also have fields. It's great having an object, but the fields are where you're going to actually put your data. So when you create an object, you automatically inherit some standard fields. These are not fields that you can customize by any means. These are part of the object. You inherit those. You then have the ability to customize it with your custom fields. And so you can do this by, creating fields that might capture department name or department type. All of that based off of what your design says. So you create custom fields that are part of that object. Then moving off into the application. The application is working within the user interface realm. So our application is a container that contains all of your processes, all of the tabs. You know how we just logged into your org, and when you logged in you saw a load of tabs going across. That is going to be dictated by which application you're looking in. And understanding which application you're in, you're going to click on the drop down on the upper right hand corner. And we'll talk about that when we go back in there. But that's your application. It has all of the tabs. The tabs then lead to your objects. It also has all of your processes. So it encapsulates. It's a container for all of that. And that's in the user interface building block. And then what's a tab? Okay, so now we talked about applications. And then we have a tab. So a tab, when you click on that tab inside of your application, you are going to be brought to your object. That page layout, that page layout that goes into the object, that object that you created, the page layout that was generated the moment you created your object. So you will enter data there. That's where that tab will lead you. The tab can also lead you to external websites. You can bring other web content via that tab. a tab can also lead you to a visual force page, okay? So a tab can do those three things: the object, web content, or visual force page. We'll be looking at it from an object. And then we have the page layout. Once again, you don't create this. You have the ability to customize it. You can move fields around. You can add new sections. You can regroup fields. You can add custom buttons, custom links to it, but it is generated for you, okay? You're a little limited in what you can do, but it does work. It's work, and it's great, and you don't have to do anything. That's what's great about it. You can also define field properties at the page level, meaning you can make fields required at the page level. You can make them read-only at the page level, okay? You can also do those when you create fields, but those are two separate properties, okay? These are what we call about page properties. Now, we're moving into the business logic realm, okay? So we've gone from the data model, talking about objects and fields. We then talked about the user interface tier, where we talked about applications. We talked about tabs. We talked about page layouts. Now we're moving into the business logic. And the first thing we're going to talk about in the business logic tier are validation rules. Validation rules, I like to think of them as sort of the gatekeeper to keeping your data clean. You're stopping the user up front saying, whoa, whoa, this data does not meet the needs to enter my database. So I need you to enter in this field. Or this field cannot be greater than whatever the number may be. You're implementing your business rules. Because how many of you know, once you get dirty data into your database, it's like a virus. It just spreads, okay? And nobody likes cleaning up dirty data, right? So I'm not saying that this is going to stop dirty data from getting in, but it does help to eliminate some dirty data from getting in, your validation rules up front. And we're going to create some today. And when you do a validation rule, you are required to give the validation, what it is that you're checking, as well as the error message. So you always want to make sure your error messages are polite and that they are useful to the user, right? Just don't tell them, hey, that's the wrong information. Okay. You want to give them enough information so they can correct themselves and move forward and be successful. And then workflow. Workflow is exactly that. It is the flow of work. It helps to automate your business processes. So I had mentioned earlier the hiring process. I have a background at PeopleSoft, and I worked in HR, and I was a developer for PeopleSoft. And we did lots of workflow there. And one of the workflows we implemented was, you know, an employee being hired. And when an employee is hired, you then wanted to send off an email to this person. You also wanted to send their information off to benefits. If we did not automate these processes, somehow it would have to get done, right? Either a human would have to email somebody off or fax the information. So automating the business processes, there's different ways that you can do it. The way that we're going to do it here in Salesforce is via workflow. And it's really powerful. And when you do implement workflow, there are 4 types of actions you can have. You can either have a task, you can do a field update, you can send an email, or you can send an outbound message. Outbound message, email, 2 different things. The recipients are different. When I post a message, it's a system receiving the information. When I send an email, it's a human receiving the information, right? So those are the 4 actions that you can do via workflow. So now, are you guys ready to build your first app? Are you nervous? Don't be. We're going to step you through it, all right? So what I need you to do is pull out your activity exercise guide, okay? And we're going to step you through this. This is going to be fun. This is exciting. I love the fact that you can build an application without coding. I know you want to code. Right? No, yeah. All right, so let's go ahead and do this. So I'm on page 1. And what we want to do is we're working within the recruiting app, this recruiting app called, and it's for a company called Universal Containers. So in this scenario, if you look on page 1, they want to stop using spreadsheets to track all of their positions. They have a spreadsheet that tracks their positions. Some people are like, oh my gosh, that is me. That is me. We want to do that too. Well, you'll be able to do this. So you're going to create an object, a positions object that they're going to utilize to track the information. Okay? So what we want to do is first, we're going to create the application, the recruiting app. So we're going to start with the first step. And you want to go into your application and you want to click on the setup. So I'm on step number 1, page 1. You want to click on Setup, Create, Apps. Now if you get this flash, it's just click OK. We're just going to ignore it right now. Okay. And then once you're there, you want to go ahead and do New. We're going to create a new application. Now, if you note here, too, that there are some standard applications. These came delivered out of the box. We're creating our own custom app. And when you see, once we create this, you'll see it's going to be added to our drop-down, and I'll show you that. So go ahead and click New, and you want to go ahead and give it the label of Recruiting. Okay. Once you have successfully done that, go ahead and click Next. Now here's a fun part. You get to put in a logo. Exciting. Well, we've loaded the logo for you. But that's another great thing that you get to do with applications, your custom apps. With the custom apps, you can add your own logos. Okay? So we're going to add a logo here. So you want to go ahead and click on Insert an Image. And it's that little gray icon where Sebastiano just clicked. Okay? When you go in there, you want to make sure you change the file location that you're looking for, and it's going to be in the corporate graphics. And I'm going to come down there. Go ahead. So I can see it too. And then you want to click the link for Universal Containers GIF. So then I can see the screen too, what I'm talking about here. Okay? Good, good. So then you want to go ahead and click Next. Now here we want to go ahead and say we're not going to add any of these applications to these tabs to our applications. The only one that we want is the Home, which we have there. We're also going to accept the default landing tab of Home there as well. Once you've done that, you're going to go ahead and click Next. And here what we're going to do, we want to go ahead and click on Visible. And what we're saying is we want this application to be visible to all profiles. Okay? So we're saying all profiles are going to have access to this app. And then you want to go ahead and click Save. Okay? So great. We just created an app. And if you notice, this is the only one with the checkbox next to Custom because this is the custom app that we're creating. All right? So now we're going to move on to step number 2, and we're still on page 1. So that was exciting. We just created our first app. We're taking baby steps here. Now we want to go ahead and create an object. So you're going to go ahead and click on Setup, Create, Objects. And let me just point out, here under the Create, this Create menu is where you primarily work when you are creating applications declaratively. Okay? When you start doing things programmatically, you'll work in a different menu item, but here we'll primarily work under the Create. So we're going to go ahead and create objects. And now if you notice, we already have some objects here. These are custom objects. We're going to create a new custom object. So we want to go ahead and click on New Custom Object. And we want to give it a label. So whenever you see that word label, I want you to keep in the back of your mind, this is what the end user sees. So label is what the users end up seeing. You'll see labels when we talk about objects. You'll see labels when we talk about fields. You'll see labels when we talk about applications. This is what the users see. So here, you're going to type in the word position. And then when you tab out of that field, it automatically populates the object name. This is what's going to be stored on the back end. Okay? And then you want to go into the plurals and you want to type in positions. This is going to be the label that will show up on the tab. Okay? So for data type, we're going to change the record name. And record name is an interesting field because this is actually a standard field. It comes with every object you create. And really what you're giving it here, when we type in here at this field where it says record name, we're going to type in the word title. That's going to be the label for that field. The field name will always be name, okay, as the text says there. I'm just kind of reiterating what it says there. And I think we want this type to be text. Good. We also are going to check allow reports, allow activities, as well as track field history. Okay. And we're going to leave it at deployed. And we do want to check add notes and attachments, as well as we're going to click on launch the new custom tab. This is typically, when I teach this class, we don't do that. We do that as a separate step. But I'll show you why we're doing this. Because what's going to happen before he clicks save, it's going to launch us into creating a tab for this object that we're creating. Okay? Remember, tabs are still in the user interface. Objects are in our data model tier. Okay. I think we're good. All right. I want to make sure everybody's with us. Okay. All right. So go ahead and click Save. And then, boom, it brings us to tabs. The reason why it brought us here is because we checked that tab, launch into the tab wizard. Had we not checked that, you would not have been brought here. Okay, so if you're trying this on your own later, I just want you to know how we got here. All right, so here we are going to create, so now I'm on page 2. I'm on step C. And we're going to create the new custom tab. And each tab is, in this particular case, is going to be associated with the object position that we just created. And we want to choose the tab style. And actually, this is one of my favorite parts. When you click on this magnifying glass, Sebastiano, because I love colors. So you get a choice of all these little colors and all these little icons. Hey, it's the little things that matter, right? So we're going to choose the desk. Though one of my favorites is the sun. If you ever get a chance to play around with it, look at the sun tab. It's happening. So go ahead and choose the tab style of desk. And we're going to leave the splash page to be blank. And just to take note, we haven't been doing this, but I want you guys to take note. Always type in description. Documentation is good, okay? But due to time, we're just going to skip over that. All right, so go ahead and click Next. Once again, we're getting, do we want to add this to these profiles? We're going to have the one tab style visible to all of the profiles. So we're going to accept the defaults that are here. So you want to go ahead and click Next. And here we're saying, all right, so do you want to include this tab in which application? Remember, tabs are part of applications. We created one application on here, and that was the recruiting app. So what you want to do is click on the checkbox that says Include Tab, uncheck that. Because the only application we want to include our tab in is the recruiting app. Okay? So go ahead and select that. And then we'll leave that as a pen tab. Users will override their customizations. And then you want to go ahead and hit Save. Now, there's two things I want to show you before we go on. Okay? So what we've just done, we just created an application as well as a tab. So we want to see it, right? I know some people couldn't see me. So if you click on that drop down, you're going to see your application show up there, the recruiting app. So if we select that recruiting app, it then changes our tab selection. We now have our tab Home, and we also have the tab Position. So if we click on the Positions tab, you want to click on the Positions tab? Oh, it was slow. Sorry, Sebastiano. There isn't much there. For example, if we clicked on New to create a new position, all we are adding is a title. Not kind of anticlimactic, right? So we want to make it a bit more interesting. But this is based off of what we've done so far, right? So what did we do? Let's recap for a moment. We created an object. We created the position object. We created a tab. We also created this application. We just did a whole lot, right? No coding. So now what we want to do is we want to go back and we want to create fields on this object. The field that you are seeing here is that standard field that came with the creation of the object. Also, this little page layout, this UI, was generated the moment you created the object. Okay? You didn't go and drag and drop a field on a page. This was generated for you. Okay? So now we're going to go and we're going to add some custom fields. So if you're on step number 3 on page 2 in your exercise. So now we want to go ahead and click on Setup, Create, and we're going to go back to our Positions object. Now, if you notice here, this is the object you created, and there's lots of different areas that are attached to this object. We have things like the standard fields. Those fields came with the creation of the object. You didn't add those fields. Those came with it. We have custom fields and relations, where we're about to go in a minute. And we have validation rules. We have triggers. All of these things are attached to your object. Okay? We're now going to look at adding new fields to this object. These fields will allow us to capture the data we want to capture that will be stored in this object. So, if you look at here, on page 3, these are the fields that we're going to, sorry Greg, these are the fields that we're going to add to the new custom fields that we're going to add to our object. So what you want to do is go to the area where it says Custom Fields and Relationships. And the first field that we're going to add is going to be the status field. So first, if you click New. Okay. Now let me just show you a little bit about this. Whenever you're adding a field, the first thing you have to identify is what is the data type. There are tons of data type. And we're not going to be able to talk about every single one of them. I know, you're sad. But that's okay. We're going to get to do some of them. We're going to do some of the interesting ones. And the first one we're going to do is a pick list. So you want to select pick list. Make sure you select pick list and not multi-select pick list. Just the pick list one. Okay. And then go ahead and click Next. Now, for those that aren't familiar with the term pick list, what that is from a UI standpoint, you as a user have gone and you use applications where you clicked on this drop down and you've got a selection of values to choose from. We're creating that kind of field where when the user clicks on it, there will be a selection of values that they can choose from. They cannot add. If it's not there, they'll have to still pick one of them, right? Okay, so we want the label, and label once again means what? When you see label, what are you thinking? That's right, user. I saw you were thinking that. You were thinking that. I saw you say that. User, that's right. User, it's what the user sees. So now, here this is, so you'll make it mixed case, you'll make it look nice. So the field name is going to be status, and the values that we want here, now, please note how you enter the values. We're going to enter in the value new, and then hit return. And then you're going to do open, return, then closed, return. If you put it all on one line, as it's shown here, open, comma, closed, open, new, you're going to get one value, one selection that has all three. Okay? So that's not quite what we want. So we want it to be like this. So you want to enter them in the way you want them to appear, or you can sort them alphabetically. We're going to leave them as they are here. And go ahead and click Next. And here, once again, we're talking about security. And we want all of these profiles to have field level security to this field. So we're going to accept the defaults for this field on all of these profiles. And we'll click Next. And now this is interesting because now it's saying, all right, you're creating this field. Do you want this field to be part of your page? And we're saying, yeah, we do want this to be part of our page. If it's not on the page, the users won't be able to see it. So you want to go ahead and accept this default. Now, because we have more fields to create, we're going to go ahead and do save and new, which will bring us back to create another field. So that was our first field we created, which was the pick list. The second field we want to create is going to be a number field. So you want to select number data type. Okay. And then we're going to click next. And this number field is going to be called duration. Now, why would we have a number field called duration as part of a position object? Well, if we have a field that's going to be of, a position that is a temporary position, we want to know how long is this job going to last? How many days? Do you want them to be a week temp, a temp for 2 weeks, a temp for a year? So the duration of that job type. Okay. So here it's going to be a number, and we want the length to be 3. And then we're going to put something very interesting. We're going to use help text. By show of hands, how many people know what the help text is? Okay, great. So you know that the help text, there's going to be a little icon next to that field, a little question mark icon, and when the user hovers over it, whatever information you put into the help text will appear. Make sure you understand the difference between that and descriptions, because sometimes developers will pull in some gnarly description like this is this daggone field they've been bugging me about into the help text, and then the user mouses over it and it's like, oh, is that really how you feel? Okay, so you want to make sure you know the difference. Whatever you put in help text, the users will end up seeing. Just note that. So we'll be nice. So in this case, we're going to put labor laws require this field for temp positions. Now we have a couple of choices here. We're not going to use any of these checkboxes on this field. We can make it required, we can make it unique, or we can make it also an external ID, which those are, when you take the Dev 401, we covered lots of detail, so we'll save that. Go ahead and click next. Once again, we're accepting the defaults. We want this to be visible to all profiles. So you want to go ahead and click next. And once again, we're saying, all right, do you want this new field to be part of the page, the page layout that's generated for you? And we do. So we have 2 more fields we need to create. So we're going to do save and new. So the next field we want to create, this time we're going to do a text area. And this is going to be the field that's going to capture the job description. So when I put in, I want a developer, they're going to do, what is the description for that course? They're going to be doing lots of coding. Or a tester, they're going to try to break my code. Whatever the description is for that job, we want to capture it in a text area. So we want to make it long enough so they can put that information in. So we're going to select text area and go ahead and click next. And we want the label for this field to be job description. And once again, when you put in the label and you tab out, it automatically populates the field name. Once again, the field name is what will be stored on the back. And yes, we are making this field required. So when you make this field required, it's going to show up and have a little red bar next to it. This way that the user looks at the page, it's already indicated to them, red, you need to put in information there. Okay? And we want to go ahead and click next. And we're going to accept the defaults again for this to be visible for all profiles. And then we're clicking next. Uno más, one more time. And this time we're going to save, I believe we're on our last field, save and new. We're going to create another pick list. We like pick lists. And pick list, you want to go ahead and select this one and click next. And we want this field is going to be called type. And this is going to indicate the type of position. Is this a full-time job? Is it a part-time job? Is it a temporary position? So in your types, in your area, you want to go ahead and type in what you want to show up in that drop-down. And remember to hit return. And then you want to click next. In here, we are again accepting the defaults so that all profiles can see the field and have access, field level access to the field. And then you're going to click Next again. And once again, we do want to show this field on the page. So in this case, we're done completing fields, so we're not going to do Save and New. We're just going to do Save. So you just created fields. Very exciting. I know, very exciting. I'm feeling the excitement. So you have an object now with some custom fields, right? So now it's capturing data. So here, let's go check it out. Let's see if it really worked, okay? We added these fields. I want to see what is this going to look like to the end user. So if we go back and we click on our Positions tab, and if we click on New, because obviously we don't have any new positions, we haven't loaded any, voila, there is all your hard labor. Those are the fields you just created. So if you notice, title is red. That's the standard field. Now, if I click on my drop-down status, I should have some. There we go. Those are the statuses we entered, or statuses that we've entered. And then we have, there's our I. Let's mouse over that little question mark. There's our help text showing up. And we also made job description required, right? And we also made type a drop-down. So it looks like everything is working, okay? So now, you know, we can add record, or we'll skip that part and go straight to the validation rule, okay? So this is great. It will allow us to enter any data. But now we want to move into the business logic tier. And what we want to do is we want to have a validation rule. And I'm now on page 3, step 4 of your exercise guide. And a validation rule, once again, is going to be that rule that says data can only be saved if it's meeting this requirement. And the requirement that we're going to put in is if they choose a position of the type temp, they also have to put in value to the duration field. And that duration, the value in the duration field cannot be more than 365 for 365 days, and it can't be less than 0. So that's my business rule. My business rule basically says when I create a position that's of temp, I need a duration. Okay? So we're making duration what we call a conditionally required field. It's required if the type is temp. All right? So where are we going to do this? This is going to go back to the object. So we're on step 4, page 3. You want to go ahead and click on Setup, Create, Objects, and we're going to go back to our position object. Now, once again, this is the area where you create lots of different things, and there's lots of areas that you can explore here. So where we want to scroll down to are the validation rules. How many people have written like Excel, macros, and so this is going to be very common to you. This is going to be very similar. How many people have written validation rules before? Oh, okay, great. Come on up here. You can come up. No? Okay. All right, so now you want to go ahead and click on New. We're going to add a new validation rule. Okay. The first thing is they want to know what is your rule name going to be. And we want our rule name to be temp position validation. And it is going to be active. Okay. If it's not checked, if we uncheck that, then the rule will not be active. Okay, it won't fire. And then we're actually going to go into our description and put in a description, and it gives it to you clearly here. Temporary positions require a value for duration between 1 and 365 days. So basically, we're making a conditionally required field. And then we're going to type in our function down here under the area where we put in our error condition formula. Now remember, this is sometimes a little backwards if you're a coder, because if it evaluates to true, then it's an error. So you kind of have to change the way you may think it if you're from a programming background. So if it evaluates it to be true, it's going to be an error. So we're going to put in our condition here, and they give it to you on step number 4, page 3. And we're using a function called isPickVal. You can go ahead and type it on. isPickVal. And here's the thing, when you're going to be writing validation rules, if you're going to be writing formulas, one of the areas you want to get to know well, one of the resources, is if you look on the right hand side are the quick tips. There are many links there. You want to know operation and functions. There's a lot of great documentation out there. It will give you information on each functions. And once Sebastiano finishes typing, I'll have him click on one of the functions. It will show you the syntax. If you're anything like me, I'm syntactically challenged. Whenever it comes to coding or functions, I get the concepts, writing the syntax is a little challenging. So here, we have this wonderful thing called check syntax, because we won't let you save syntactically incorrect functions, right? Some people will try to say, we don't let you save bad code. Well, that is very subjective, right? I mean, I've seen syntactically correct code that was still bad code. So we don't let you say syntactically incorrect functions or codes. Okay? So if you click on check syntax, and it tells you no errors are found. Now, Sebastiano, can you do me a favor and just click on one of the functions over on the right? Right, yeah. Just click on one. See, as soon as he clicked on one, we got information about that function showed up there. You can also click on the button that will bring up additional information. So if you're going to be writing functions or you're going to be writing validation rules, I tell you first go to developersforce.com, look, cut and paste. Don't reinvent the wheel. Somebody has done it, I promise you. So look at your resources, unless you want to reinvent the wheel. But I'm saying you don't need to. There are lots of resources out there. And there's a lot of great functions. In this case, we're using the isPickVal function. When you use pick list fields, you want to check the value in the field by using the isPickVal, or you can also use the string function. Okay? And we're checking to make sure that when they choose that, if it's temp, that duration field cannot be less than 0, nor can it be greater than 365. So that's what that function is doing here. So now, if that's the case, then we need to send an error message. And the error message we want to type in is going to say temporary positions require a value for duration between 1 and 365. So you want to make sure, once again, best practice, when you're giving error messages to users, they're useful. Don't just say, put in a value and duration, and then they put in something like 400, and you still say, put in a value and duration. You want to make sure you're letting them know, put in a proper value in the duration field, okay? And especially why? Because they've picked the temp type. Also, once you have put in the message, you need to say where you want that message to be, either at the top of the page or next to the field. And in this case, we're going to have it next to the field. And then once you do that, it's going to say, well, which field do you want it to be next to? We're going to go ahead and put it next to type. Yeah, so you want to choose the field type. So you choose the location. So 3 main things. When you're writing validation rules, you're going to write the error condition, you're going to write the message, and you're going to also identify the location of the message. Okay? So you want to make sure you do that. So go ahead and do save. Okay. So now we created our first validation. Now we want to go out and test it. Does this really work? We put in this stuff. Let's go check it out. So on page 3, step number 5, they have you create a position. So I want you to go to the Positions tab. Okay. And now we're going to create a new position. Okay. So you want to go ahead and enter in the type of position we're going to create is a black box tester. And the status is going to be open. And the duration is going to be blank. And our job description is going to say, test our software. Make it work well. Break our software. And the type is going to be temp. Okay. So a couple of things here. We want to make sure our validation rule should not allow us to save this record, because this record is incomplete based off of our business logic. My business rule says if it's temp, duration needs to be completed. So go ahead and click save. and voila, it works. Whew. All right, so that actually works, okay? And in this case, the way we would correct it, and we can actually just test it. What happens if I put in 400, Sebastiano? Well, he put in 30, it's saved. But if you test it and see if you put in, because we put in a range too, right? 0 to 365, so if you put in 400, you still should get that error message. It's okay. It's okay. All right, so let's take a minute here. We just created an object with a field and a tab and an application and a validation rule. So next time when you ask your developer to do that and they tell you it's going to take about 6 months, you can go, wait a minute, I just took an hour class and did it all. What's that about? So you know how that goes. And I know developers are going to be ready to take me down after class, like, why did you let everybody know that? Okay. So now what we want to do is we're not going to stop there. We're actually going to create a workflow. So on page 3, step 6, we're going to create a workflow rule. Our workflow rule is going to say that whenever I create a new position, I want it routed to go to Mario. Mario will now become the owner of that position. Okay? So remember, with workflow, you can do 4 types of actions. You can do field update. You can do sending an email. You can do posting a message. And you can do adding a task. This time we're going to update a field, and we're going to change the owner of that record from whoever creates it to Mario. So we need to put that workflow rule in. Now, once again, validation and workflow are in our business logic tier. So we're still working in the business logic tier. Okay? So now I'm on the last page here, page 4, on the back of your exercise guide, and we're going to create a workflow rule. So you want to go ahead and click on Setup, Create, and now we're going to Workflows and Approvals. So we want to click on Workflows and Approvals, and we're going to go click on Workflow Rules. And you're going to get this long splash page, and it's just basically saying how to create a workflow, but we're going to step straight through it so you can click on Continue. And I'll wait for everybody to get there. So now we want to actually create a new rule. So we're going to click on New Rule. Okay. And rules are also attached to objects. So it's saying which object do you want this rule to be part of. So here we want to go ahead and select the object to be positions, because it's when positions are created, this is when we want the rule to be kicked in. So we're going to select positions. And then we'll click Next. And here you want to go ahead and put in the rule name is going to be called New Position Rule. Now there's a couple of things here. We're saying I'm creating a new business rule, a workflow rule. And when do I want this rule to be evaluated? Meaning, when do I want this to kick in? Do I want it every time I create a new position? Or what about when I modify a position? Or what about if it's created and then modified later? Do you want this workflow rule to be kicked in? So if you look at these 3 radio buttons, it gives you those choices. The one we're interested in is the second radio button, only when a record is created. So when a record is modified, we're not going to look at this workflow rule. Okay? So here, we're going to click on the second radio button. Then we're saying, okay, so when a record is created, we then want to have entry criteria. What does that mean? Does this record meet the criteria to trigger the workflow? So we need to have a criteria. And in this case, our criteria is going to be when the status of this position is new. So when this is new. So if I click Status equals new. Now, if I click on the magnifying glass, which is the best way to do it, it gives me a list. Why is it giving me a list? Because it's a pick list I created, exactly. So you want to select that. I could have typed it in, but here's a problem with that. It's case sensitive. So what if I would have typed in new all caps? you would have called your support and said, my workflow is not triggering because it never met the criteria because none of the values are new in caps. So to be accurate, I suggest just select the values there. And then we're going to select new. Okay. And then we want to do save and next. So what we just did, we identified the criteria in order for workflow to be triggered. Okay. So now, great. We already identified when a record is new and when it's created. So some people go, why do you do if it's created and new? Sometimes you can load in records and they're brand new records, but their status may not be new. Okay. So it's not always going to be, every new record is going to have the status of new. So you can do immediate workflow or you can do time dependent. We're going to work on immediate workflow, meaning as soon as it meets this criteria, that's when I want that action to happen. Time dependent can say, I want something to happen 20 days from now. If this is still sitting out here in the status open 20 days from now, then I want you to do something. That's time dependent. We're going to do immediate. So if you click on that drop down, here are our actions. We can add a new task. We can update a field. We can send out an email. We can also post a message. It also gives us the ability to use an existing action, though we have no existing action. So in this case, we're going to do a field update. Okay. So now I'm on page 4, letter G. And the rule that we want this to be called, we want to call it assign new position to a recruiter. Because what we're doing is when you create this position, we're going to automatically assign it to Mario. Mario Ruiz. Okay? And then we're going to say which field do we want to update. Now what's interesting, when you click on this drop down, you see standard fields and you see all your custom fields. So standard fields, we're going to select the owner field. Now here in owner, we're saying we want to update this owner. We're changing the owner of this record. We're going to change it from the current owner to, we're going to say the user, but can I just, Sebastiano, can you just click on, really quick, just click on the drop down next to user. You have the ability to change it to a queue and a partner user, okay? We're just going to do a user. Sometimes people will change it to a queue, which is group ownership of a single record, all right? So we're going to stick with just the user, and if I click on the magnifying glass, I get a list of the users. The one that we're interested in is Mario. I like to say it like that, Mario. It makes me feel international. Mario. Yep, so we want to select Mario, Sebastiano. And we're also going to click on Notify Assignee. What does that mean? I'm going to send him an email saying, guess what? You now own this record. Okay? So it would be nice to know if you're going to assign work to me, let me know. Okay? So that's what we're going to do. And you want to go ahead and click Save. And now all of this is great, and you click on Done. So we just created a workflow. It had some entry criteria. We also said, what is our rule? Well, first of all, it's only going to go if it's a new record and when it's created. And then what's going to happen is we're going to change the owner from the current user to Mario, and we're going to notify Mario. Okay? So now, all that's great, but it doesn't mean anything unless we activate it. So we need to make sure we activate the workflow rule. We do so by clicking on the Activate button. Once you've activated, then we're going to test it. Okay? So now you want to go ahead out to the Positions tab. Now, before we do that, click on New for a minute. Can you click on our old record for a moment? The one we first created. Now, if you look at the user, who's the user there? I think it just says Administrator, right? Administrator. So, based off our workflow rule, when we create a new one, we shouldn't see Administrator. It should automatically go to Mario. All right? Okay? So let's do it. Let's check it out. So we're going to create a new position. Click on New. And we want to call SW Engineer. And the status is going to be new. And duration, are we doing a duration? We're going to leave blank. We're going to leave that one blank. Yeah, we'll leave that one blank. And the job description is going to be write lots and lots of code. And then the type is going to be full-time. And then we're going to cross our fingers and click save and watch the magic work. I hear lots of very cool. Now Mario is the owner of that record. Very cool. You guys have done so much in just an hour. Okay, you've touched on every tier. We did the data model tier. You created an object. You went into the user interface. You looked at, well, we didn't do any page layout because it was done for us, but you created an application. You created a tab. You then went into the business logic. You created a validation rule, and you created a workflow. You deserve a drink, okay? That was a lot of work. Give it up for yourselves. Good job, you guys. You created a whole application without one piece of code, okay? So remember, when you have your developers do stuff, you know things now, okay? So before we go on, I'm going to jump back to my slides. I don't have my clicker. Here it is. So you guys built your first application. If you want to learn more, we shoved a whole lot into an hour. Sign up for a course. I would love to see you guys in it. We have a whole day dedicated to workflow. Okay? How exciting is that? A whole day workflow and approval process. All kinds of things. There's lots of great classes. We have our TAEs in the back, so please sign up. Our TAE in the back, she's signing up there waiting for you. Also, where are your next steps? Check out. Get certified, get certified, get certified. If you can do workflow, I promise you can do Dev 401, I promise. Q&A, any questions? We have a question right here. Huh? Oh, the survey. I'm sorry. I need you guys to fill out a survey. Thank you, Mark. Please, can you show them on the, just take out 5 quick minutes and fill out a survey. So you do this here on your org. Yeah. So on the Home tab, if you click on the course survey, I don't even know it's there. Let's click on that. And there should be, you guys are in, where is it? Oh, building your first Force.com platform application. So please do take out 5 minutes and fill that out. If you do have questions afterwards, I'm here. I'll be out in the hallway because I think I have to get ready for another class.